Welcome back to WCS Winter. We're getting ready to move into our second series, but of course we also want to mention that if you like StarCraft, there are some amazing skins in the game. You guys can take a look over here. We just saw a really clean series, very nice macro play from a Protoss, but if you ever want to go to the dark side, if you ever want to join in on a lot of the other wonderful people out there and cannon rushing and being just a general jerk on the ladder, that's a great skin. That's a great Nexus skin to use. What do you think about that, Nate?
Oh, the Tal'Darim are just jerks in general is kind of their thing. So if that fits your Protoss mantra mentality, pick up those skins today. The Forged War Chest skins are good. Obviously,
they're pretty solid.
Player, I'm on my Special Forces. It's got the more like everything looks super spy-like, dark, satellites everywhere. I don't know. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, Zerg, they just give things like more tentacles and more spikes. And
no, but
we get more satellites.
Yeah.
And Protoss are like, no, we just make them look like dark monoliths. And
yeah, but I mean, the Zerg skins right now are pretty cool.
The Zerg skins are pretty cool.
Mechanical units, pretty awesome. But ladies and gentlemen,
the simulant Zerg buildings can actually light on fire. Which
that one has been very interesting.
It ruins my immersion.
I know. But of course, guys, we are going to be moving into a Protoss versus Protoss. This is going to be MaNa versus ShaDoWn. And I know a lot of people are familiar with MaNa.
Yeah. Recently
played versus Alpha Star. And while I know a lot of people will talk about how many games were played and how he went, like, I think it was, 5-1. That one win, I think, was a big one. That was a very important one. That was the final one, and it was versus, I guess, the most recent version and everything.
Was it, though?
I consider that to be a pretty important one.
I don't know, man. I like Rotterdam's explanation that we don't know how good it was, or if it was the only agent that they were training on the looking around.
That's true.
Screen.
Yeah. But that's going to be kind of interesting because it's going to be a PvP, much like the Alpha Star match.
Do you think so? Do we take bets on if MaNa's going to
oversaturate
his main?
So for those who don't know, if you missed the Alpha Star match, we saw that MaNa was facing off against Alpha Star, which is this awesome DeepMind AI program that's doing machine learning to try and learn about StarCraft.
It's the alpha build of Skynet.
Exactly. And what ended up happening was Alpha Star, its natural progression was to heavily oversaturate its main as natural, go to up to like 24, 25 workers or something. And that's not what normally a lot of Protoss players will do, especially in a PvP. But MaNa is reportedly one of the players that said, you know what? I'm actually going to start doing this. Supposedly he's been doing it in his games.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird, I think, discussion around it. I think one of the things that a lot of people bring up is like the diminishing returns from putting more than 16 workers on a mineral line. The 17th and 18th workers are still very efficient. Like they're not 100%, but I always liked watching that. Like losing a couple of workers in that situation has nowhere near as much of an impact on your economy if it would if you only had 16.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot about MaNa, but for those who don't know ShaDoWn, he is one of those players I think has been up and coming in the scene for a good bit of time. Not afraid to get down and dirty. I do distinctly remember him doing some pretty cheeky, cheesy Protoss all-ins, some cannon rushes, all that kind of stuff. Don't know if he's going to be doing any of that in a PvP, but still a pretty skilled player, but going to be the underdog here.
All right, excited to see where he can go. As we've already had, I would say, probably fair to say, one upset so far in this group. In the top left position, we have our blue Protoss player. He is ShaDoWn.
Team Iron Chain. Good name. Starting down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, we have the red Protoss player from Team Liquid. He is MaNa.
MaNa, very fun player to watch, very creative Protoss. He's kind of been a little bit of someone that we would say had some big highs before, kind of fell off for a bit, and then actually kind of came back with a vengeance last year. Had that one really sick run in WCS Austin. Went extremely far. That was kind of a story for a lot of players last year, as we had the meteoric rise suddenly of MaNa, who played really well, really good metagame play, and then Haas in another tournament. And of course, no one could match the might of Serral, but we know that MaNa still has that spark, right? We can expect to see great things from him, and especially since we know he has been working on his game, and he has been presented with challenges like Alpha Star that wonder how much that motivates him, you know? Maybe he's got a rematch somewhere down the pipeline, and he's like, I'm going to crush it this year.
Yeah, I believe it. he has been doing really, really well for himself. And I agree, he has been a bit more volatile in terms of performance and actually getting results. But when he's looking in shape, he looks really good. It's really exciting to watch him. He has a great stream as well if you guys are ever interested in checking that out. Well, we'll see. PvP tends to open up the same way in most games, even with the Alpha Star stuff, sometimes not walling off, which was a little bit funky. Wall-offs are pretty much considered standard, and we get to see, is it going to be double Adept or double Stalker or Stalker Sentry? It is going to be Stalker Sentry for ShaDoWn, but MaNa can just test his opponent a little bit, go for the double Adept.
Yeah. So the power of this, of course, the Adepts can one-shot the probes and use both of them, even if there's the shield battery, if the attacks line up properly. You can shade through force fields, you can shade through units. There's a lot of micro potential from the Adepts, and this is one of the reasons why you see a lot of probe scouting in PvP. You always need to know what those first couple of units are going to be from your opponent. Because the probe is here, he's going to spot that it is Adepts. That's good information to have. He may preemptively leave a probe at the top of his main base ramp to put down a shield battery or a pylon to block any units from going past those gateways. Very popular. Usually you see the shield battery used to finish the wall because it takes a lot longer to build. So if you're forced to cancel it over and over, you're not spending as much money as you would canceling pylons.
Yeah, exactly. We also saw that the probe for ShaDoWn was able to go back in, kind of sacrificing itself to try and get some scout on the tech. He didn't end up seeing it, but he did delay MaNa's tech by an extra 5 or 10 seconds there just because MaNa didn't want to reveal it. A lot of the time you end up seeing Stargate follow-ups, I think, from the Adepts just because Adepts don't cost very much gas, but being able to delay that, it seems like MaNa decides to go into Robo instead. Both these players are going to be going for that.
Yep, and as these players set themselves up, the one thing I have been keeping an eye on, MaNa's got a few more workers than his opponent.
Okay.
That's just something I'm never going to stop looking at now, especially for the PvPs that MaNa's going to play. Just my curiosity. Doesn't mind having a little bit more of that saturation, even though both players are expanding. Doesn't mind having the extra workers earlier in this scenario. But it could also just be a consequence of the build that he's gone for.
Oh, absolutely. The Nexus for ShaDoWn is about to finish up, and like you said, not quite as oversaturated, so he's not going to have enough or as many workers to immediately transfer. So it's not even just the saturation you were talking about, right? It's also just you can immediately get a clear benefit by transferring those workers down to the natural.
And just to give a little bit of an idea here, before the players transfer to their naturals, the income was about 200 minerals a minute higher for MaNa just on that one base from having those extra workers. So it's nothing that's insane, but in a tense scenario where you need the extra resources, the investment of those couple of extra probes can pay itself off in that span of time and make it worth it.
Lucien Phoenix moves forward, spots out the Robo there, so MaNa knows what his opponent is up to. I believe that ShaDoWn has sent out the Warp Prism, it looks like, but he's already seen the robotic facility, it looks like, with a previous Lucien Phoenix scout. Has a Forge, a Researching +1. We'll see if MaNa is going to have enough units to try and push back the Warp Prism harassment, which is an Immortal and 2 Adepts, and actually warping a few more Adepts as well.
So is he going to try to just shade the Adepts in and then drop the Immortal? That's an interesting tactic.
Oh, okay, looks like a couple of workers going down. I'm not actually even sure where.
Did you just throw the Adepts?
The Adept Shades, they just left. The Immortal is going to catch a couple of the Stalkers over here, and that Hardened Shields coming off of cooldown allows him to take quite a few hits there. Probe's taking some damage, but they do take 2 shots to be killed here, and the shield battery is going to ensure that doesn't happen. But the Adepts at the same time actually
they shade the Adepts into the natural at the same time. That's brutal. So big pickoffs there against MaNa. Finds himself down about 10 almost probes at the moment. Spread across those 2 bases definitely hurts.
Ooh, MaNa getting his own Adepts into the mineral line, though. Maybe going to be able to even this up. There's no shield battery or anything here, so even after one of the Adepts has been picked off, still has a chance to maybe kill another one. It goes after the Sentry.
Yeah. Well, okay, getting that cleanup was really important. Finds himself just a few probes down now. And MaNa still has his Prism. I believe he had the Immortal count lead for a little bit there. I guess...
it's 2-2 now.
Yeah, going to build his Prism. He got it instead of the third one. We have the Templar Archives and Charge on the way for MaNa.
Yep. Lucien Phoenix nearly scouts out that Warp Prism with the 2 Immortals heading across the map. A lot of the army for ShaDoWn is kind of in the natural right now, so these Immortals have an opportunity to jump in, pick off that pylon potentially, or just go after the pylon on the robotic facility. I guess there's 2 pylons there, so a little harder to make that work. Just going to go for probes.
Yeah. Double Immortal drop, always fun. I think this is one of the most fun things to do in PvP. The power that you have against those stalkers. If you can control well, the pickup range of the Warp Prism really gives you a lot of micro potential. And we see ShaDoWn's on the other side of the map. Gonna go poke himself over there. A lot of the production for MaNa did look like it was on one pylon earlier, which I do find a little bit concerning. We see there he shuts down the 2 warp gates.
That's all of them.
ShaDoWn, so that means he cannot warp in any units. The stalkers actually got focus fired down there for a second too. Really painful, and here's that drop from ShaDoWn coming in now inside of the base of MaNa.
Yeah, a couple of Zealots warped in. I like that decision just because even though they can't close the distance very quickly, even with charge on the way, it's just about the fact that they can absorb those hits and take the hits a lot better than the Stalkers.
Making it so the Immortals can't just A-move. They have to manually target those Stalkers, and if the Zealots can get a few hits, that's really, really big. So MaNa continuing to micro that Prism, trying to keep tabs on ShaDoWn's army and prevent him from taking a 3rd base.
Templar Archives, though, is finished up over here for MaNa a lot earlier on. We already saw the charge was already finished researching for MaNa, but on top of that, the Twilight Council for ShaDoWn is only just now finishing up.
You know what? That's weird. It's actually his 2nd Twilight Council. He's researching charge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know if this is the infamous... Which Protoss player was infamous for double Twilight Council? I can't remember. Was it Roddy?
No, definitely not Roddy.
I've seen Roddy do the double Twilight Council build, but...
Yeah. Warp Prism not able to really get further into that main base. I know that the Immortals are sitting in the main from the left-hand side for a little bit, but I don't believe he... Okay, he did actually get in far enough to see the Templar Archives, so he knows how far behind he is on that regard. ShaDoWn actually going to try and go for the Templar Archives and the Dark Shrine. Loses the Warp Prism with one of the Immortals.
That's really big. This Immortal should not be able to get away. If it does, it's going to still have quite a bit of damage on it. And there's the Prism for MaNa to make sure that it cannot get away. But Archons and Zealots very good. We have a Dark Shrine on the way for ShaDoWn. I don't think that's going to be here in time to make an impact on this fight, though. And look at this. MaNa's actually throwing down cannons preemptively back home. He's already thinking about it.
Zealots come charging on forward. The Immortals at the front line going to immediately be eviscerated. And suddenly it looks like ShaDoWn just really does not have a whole lot of armies. Down to 15 army supply, plus 2 weapons for MaNa. MaNa just played the macro game better here. GG.
Losing the 2 Immortals in the Warp Prism as well for ShaDoWn. If you're trying to make a big stop, Immortals are the backbone of any Protoss army, and in that situation, you're not going to fight when the guy's got a 3 Immortal lead on you. It's not going to do anything.
No, that's going to be tough. But I feel like even just the other things, there were so many charge lots there for MaNa. Even before the Warp Prism and Immortal army.
You said his charge was a lot faster, and the Templar Archives
was faster. And there was like the 3rd base coming down for ShaDoWn, as well as also the Dark Shrine and Templar Archives coming down at the same time. So like ShaDoWn felt like he was trying to play some catch up, and then started investing into economy and tech right as the attack came. I think even if the Warp Prism and the Immortals survive, I actually don't think that ShaDoWn is able to hold there.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things to look at, especially that I'm keeping my eyes on with MaNa, with the whole probe thing. So it was from the 2 minute 15 second-ish mark, it looks like, up until...
That was a weird game because there was a lot of economic damage.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to see before where the probe started to die. It was ahead for about a solid 2 minutes on income when they were both on the 1 base.
Very nice, yeah. And we were actually using those WCS mod graphs to show the income a little bit, but interested to see where things go in game number 2. They've kind of gotten a bit of a taste for each other and seeing how they like to play. Year 0 is going to be map number 2.
Yeah, I love Year 0.
I know you love Year 0 because of the Amon in this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can talk about it more when we get into the map, but personally, I love seeing a lot of the map makers using different assets that we've had available. Although, as someone who plays co-op, all the void rifts on the map make me feel like random mobs are going to start spawning to fight me, which is slightly terrifying.
Yeah. I just imagine you opening streams would be like, wait a second, why are they playing Oh no, this is a 1v1 on Year 0. Okay.
Year 0 also just happens to be a great map for air battles because you can kind of just fly across.
There's a lot of dead airspace.
I happen to be a fan of some large flying units, so...
I understand.
Yeah.
Banshees.
Hit the nail on the head.
There you go. All right, we're going to be moving into game number 2. Let's find out if MaNa can close the series out or if this guy in the top left-hand corner of the map is going to be able to turn things around. He is the blue Protoss player from Iron Chain. It is ShaDoWn.
Trying not to get ShaDoWned by his opponent in the northeast. The red Protoss player, he is MaNa. pretty good career. He's got almost $200,000 in prize money.
Closing in.
And such a lovable character as you're talking about. He's got a great stream, great personality, super funny. Good guy all around. You never see him complain, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's really, really good attitude, I think, for the most part.
Yeah, he's always got his chin up, and he's providing us some good StarCraft so far.
Yeah, I think the only thing MaNa complains about is his own skill. When he loses, he's one of those players that laments.
I don't think there's a real StarCraft player that doesn't talk down on their own ability every now and again.
Isn't that always such a sad thing, though?
I find the people that never talk about their own mistakes are generally speaking the worst of the players personally.
Yeah. It's always funny though, because we have something like Cyril.
Well, yeah, well, he's like
tyrant.
He's like, I could do better, you know?
And we ask him, you know, in an interview or something, we say, hey, it looks like no one can really challenge you. And he's like, no, there are plenty of players that can challenge me. I get beat by other players all the time. I'm like, when?
He's like, well, I lost a game on ladder the other day. I was like, my internet disconnected. I'm like, that doesn't count.
Oh.
It's like, well, I lost MMR for it. It's like, no.
Didn't Cyril at some point in the last 4 or 5 months win a tournament as Terran?
Yeah,
he played some online tournament as Terran and he won.
I think he did some local. I think it was like a Finnish thing.
Oh, maybe it was that. Oh yeah, it was a Finnish thing.
It was like a Finnish tournament, and he he finished in first place as Terran. Yes, he did.
Oh, how it feels when you're so good that your local scene says, actually no, you can't play Zerg. I thought
he did it to handicap himself because he would get bored.
You know what? That's probably, it's not even necessarily getting bored. I can kind of see that. But for him, it's probably he just felt bad because he's such a nice guy.
I guess. He's like, well, I want you to, he's like, I know that none of you will beat me, but I still want you to feel some semblance of hope. So.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about that probe saturation, by the way. We do see continuous probe production here for MaNa. Halting that over here for ShaDoWn. Now, the nice thing for ShaDoWn is that because you don't get up additional workers, you have a few extra minerals, and sometimes get your Nexus a little bit faster is what I wanted to say, but funny enough, still somehow MaNa...
It's that Stalker. It's the Stalker
that
ShaDoWn's getting that does it here.
That makes sense.
Because MaNa gets the extra prober too, but he doesn't get the Stalker. He starts his a little bit later.
Okay. Well,
on this map, the rush distance on ground just feels pretty long though, until you break the rocks open later on. So I don't really hate it for MaNa, because you also have the ramp that leads into the natural, which this map pool has kind of gotten us back to sanity, I would say, in terms of the natural layouts. Like, a lot more of these maps have ramps going into the natural. It's not these open spaces where it's a lot easier to poke if you open up with the stalkers in any of the matchups. So I don't mind delaying it. I like seeing it. And it's going to be Stargate versus Stargate, so this could also just get funky in a really bad way.
Ooh, yeah, and MaNa, he scouted out that his opponent opened up Stargate, but he still lets the Oracle finish. Doesn't opt to go straight into a Phoenix of his own. He's gonna start the Phoenix production just a little bit later. He threw it on the Twilight, so I don't think this is something he really wants to commit to. And it looks like even ShaDoWn opening up with the Robo, because he saw that it was an Oracle opening, and probably knows, yeah, a lot of the time, if you're behind in the Phoenix count, you just don't even want to play that game.
No. It's really, really hard to squiggle your way out of that situation. The fact that both players appear to be transitioning, though, is definitely a good play. I guess the Robo you can also sometimes feel when you're playing PvP, that if you go Stargate and you see a Twilight Council, you're very vulnerable to Dark Templar, so he is still building Phoenix, so the Robo may just be for safety.
Yeah,
he hasn't started a second Stargate or anything.
The Robo can be nice against Dark Templar, definitely, but a lot of the time, if you just complement the Phoenix with a lot of Immortals, the Immortals are just such hard, heavy hitters that if your opponent is going for a lot of these Blink Stalkers on the ground, which you kind of have to, right? You have to have some answer to the Phoenix, or you just lose a bunch of workers constantly and fall further and further behind.
Yeah. Oh, I hate playing versus Phoenix.
Oh,
PvP,
yeah.
Man. They made it so the shield battery can heal lifted units, though, right? So
they did.
Kind of. I mean,
but
Phoenix
when there are 7 Phoenix, it doesn't feel like the shield battery's there anymore.
It's like, it's like, I know you're literally on fire. Here's a little burn ointment. That'll do it. That'll take care of the problem.
Ooh, nice hallucinating Phoenix there. Actually confuses MaNa and wastes a couple of shots there. So all these Phoenix should be able to get out of here alive thanks to that.
That's a pretty sick play.
5 workers killed as well. And this is what I was talking about, where the Phoenix just gradually pick away at that worker count, MaNa, who had actually overproduced workers earlier on, is actually now behind on workers.
It's a delicate balance because the Phoenix, of course, are very expensive in terms of how fast they build and the resource costs and their supply. You can spend a lot of money quickly on them. So you really want to delay the opponent's economy with those Phoenix so that they don't put the money that they didn't spend on Phoenix into a large force of something like Stalker or Immortal and kill you. And that seems to be what MaNa is gearing up for. It is a lot of Stalkers. +1's about to finish, Blink's about to finish. He's got 4 gateways coming in, and he's just going to say, look, before these Phoenix really ruin my day, I am just going to go all the way with a big, big push.
Man, I really have to say, I love that MaNa was able to keep that Oracle alive, because a lot of the time you just lose it, or a lot of Protostars will sacrifice it just to get some economic damage done. But keeping it alive and keeping it safe, getting the revelations off on the Phoenix is a big deal because it really makes it a lot easier to track when the Phoenix are darting in, have your stock in position, and your opponent knows that they've been tagged, so they're a little bit less aggressive with their units, and that actually gives MaNa the time to move in across the map with the Stalkers.
Yep, MaNa's going to go straight into the main base with a big blink, immediately run smack dab into the 2 Immortals. The Phoenix are going to come try to prevent a few of these Stalkers from escaping. The Prism adds some extra firepower to the fight, but it looks like what he was trying to do was force field off the main base, but because the Sentries and the Immortals were already inside of the main for ShaDoWn, MaNa was not able to find the purchase he's looking for. He's going to continue to reinforce this attack point, though.
Oh, 4 shield batteries over here, though. I don't know how MaNa's actually going to be able to break this. Maybe he gets some damage done by force shielding out the army and maybe picking off a Phoenix that moves a little too far forward. But is this going to be a cost-efficient trade, especially with the Immortals on the other side now?
2 Immortals with that many shield batteries and the support of the Phoenix. That's going to be really hard to make work. MaNa is being routed from ShaDoWn's base. Definitely not a fun spot to be in as his attack. You know, the thing is, the transition here is a lot better for ShaDoWn, right? He's got Charge on the way. He's getting his Templar Archives. This is going to be an army composition that dunks on Stalkers, and meanwhile we see MaNa start Charge, but he's still reinforcing with a ton of Blink Stalkers outside the base of ShaDoWn. And is this just a contain play? Maybe he's trying to buy more time for himself? I'm not even sure anymore.
What's kind of interesting, though, is that, yes, this is, I agree with you 100%. This is not a great long-term situation for MaNa. The Phoenix are on the other side of the map, so they can't really pick off the Warp Prism. He can continue to warp in more Stalkers. He jumps in on top of both of the shield batteries. Only 1 shield battery left over. He jumps into the Warp Prism. Now the Immortals can't be picked up. He focus fires them down, but does he actually have enough Stalkers? No.
Oh my god, well.
Oh, give me a heart attack.
Blink 10 Stalkers into 4 Immortals. I felt physical pain watching that, Fear Dragon. Although, to be fair, he didn't really have any other, you know.
He didn't have a follow-up plan.
I guess he was hoping. He's like, well, you only built 2 Immortals, and now you're going to build Observers. I'm like, no. No, he built more Immortals, and you died.
It's a really difficult spot. When you're there in that situation against a bunch of Phoenix, I mean, you were talking about how you've been playing a lot of Protoss, and you've been playing these PvPs. The feeling that you have when you're up against a Stargate opening, and you're just sitting there with Blink Stalkers, it's doable. But you have to play so perfectly, always be intercepting those Phoenix, never really losing too many workers, always overproducing them a little bit.
You don't want to like build cannons in all your mineral lines. Like, you don't want to have to do that.
Yeah.
If your opponent's going for the Phoenix, you assume they're going to have less of the other units. So MaNa did what made sense was he was just going to try to do a really sharp attack. He had +1 attack, he had the blink, but really big credit to ShaDoWn there for being aware of what he was provoking out of his opponent and very quickly not only keeping the scouting tabs up, but quickly getting that Immortal count up, and especially having them in his main base. Just
the positioning was
really important, because if all those units are in his natural, he gets force fielded out, the Stalkers can deal with the Phoenix trying to come back. Then he's got a Prism inside of the opponent's main, and it's lights out, right? 2-0 for MaNa.
And of course, that does mean that we have now a, I believe, tied-up series?
Yep.
1-1. All right, awesome. We're getting a nice, good old Game 3 day, just like yesterday.
The dream, Fear Dragon.
Yeah. We'll see if today's broadcast lasts as long. I feel like the games are shorter than yesterday's, though.
Yeah, well, when we get to NA, I'm sure we'll have some drawn-out series.
That'll be fun. I am really looking forward to some of those NA series. Peely Peely versus Scarlet.
Those guys have a hard time killing each other, so.
Yeah, Peely Peely also just has like really weird memes on Scarlet sometimes.
Yeah.
Because he's a funny kid. But we'll talk about NA, or I should say Americas, later on.
Americas.
It is not just NA. Yeah. It's Latin America. It's
there will be NA players, though, playing in today's NA group. America's group.
2 of them, in fact.
2 of them.
But okay, King's Cove going to be map number 3 to decide who's going to be moving on to that winners match to face off versus Skillus.
Yep.
In another Protoss versus Protoss. I can guarantee you Skillus is watching closely, identifying what these guys like to do in their PvPs.
Yeah. Very important, making those adjustments. Skill is kind of the, I don't know, he's a surprise pick for me. I saw Hero Marine as a clear first place favorite.
I think everyone did,
group,
right?
But
yeah. Well, I know, again, it's not something I'm going to take 100% seriously, but Hero Marine did say if he loses in the group today, he did say he was going to consider retirement.
I think every professional StarCraft 2 player says that about every tournament, every group they ever play in.
I've never heard MaNa say that.
Well,
MaNa's in it for life.
I already said MaNa's like just the most chill guy. So.
Exactly.
Okay, you're fair. That's fair.
Checkmate.
Terran players then.
Terran players.
You know.
Oh no.
They haven't brought the breakfast catering here yet, but I'm hoping for some cheese and wine then for my boy. I'll pour one out for Hero Marine. As we get into game number 3 on King's Cove in the bottom right position, spawning as the blue Protoss player, we have ShaDoWn.
I love that you picked that accent for a place that is named King's Cove, when America has never had any form of royalty.
I would go hang out at King's Cove. Know what I'm saying?
Starting up here in the top left-hand corner of the map, we have our red Protoss player from Team Liquid. He is MaNa. I was trying to buy myself some time to understand what you were saying.
There is an excellent story, and we don't need to go crazy into it here, but of the first men that came to the North American continent from Europe, there was a subsection. I saw a documentary about how they found some people that still had the original English accent, because they left there, but then their accent developed over there, and there's actually some slightly more authentic 1800s-ish English accents that can be found in middle of nowhere places in the United States.
That is fascinating. I didn't know Ian Canning came from there. He's the original American, right?
Yeah. Well, he adapted so that we could understand him. You know, he being omniscient and all that, he has that.
He created the American culture.
That's true.
All right, we got a sneaky probe moving down to the bottom left-hand side of the map over here from ShaDoWn, so we're probably going to be seeing some proxies. Imagine that pylon's got to go up soon as the Cybernetic core getting close to finishing, and there it is. Usually,
cheeky DTs?
So usually, yeah, I was going to say, is if you are going to go for a Stargate or something, you do it a little bit closer to your opponent.
Yeah, somewhere like there makes a lot more sense.
If you do it in the corner, it's almost always DTs.
Yeah.
Although I'm just still waiting for the day that a Protoss player is like, I'm going to go double forge in the corner. Wait, his probe left.
Yeah, that's weird. So I was going to say, another one of the things that I like about these maps, not only do you have slightly easier to defend naturals, but there's a lot more space that you don't really ever go towards unless you're in the very late game, you know, like distant corners, which I would say the corners on this map are pretty far. I don't think you'd want to path a drop around the whole way, but stuff like ninja bases, you've seen a little bit more on these maps, at least in my latter games, and also hiding tech, because it's pretty far to go to that corner and look for anything that's there. Although, of course, as you pointed out, he did not actually put anything there. He's just building stalkers. Probe is heading back there, but he didn't build a Twilight, so he can't put a dank shrine there.
He's going to hide the second Stargate here. Okay. I was really wondering about this. So what's really funny also is that ShaDoWn, I think his third pylon may have looked a little bit late to MaNa, but he got up a fourth pylon pretty quickly also. Especially if you just compared like when third and fourth pylon timings were for MaNa. I'm not sure if MaNa's going to detect that there was a hidden proxy pylon somewhere on the map.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I guess it's going to be Oracle. He could go Phoenix out of the proxy Stargate. The Adepts are going to come up. We've got 2 of the probes from MaNa picked off so far. That force field did buy him a lot of time.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing that he only lost 2 probes.
Yeah, I mean, the combination of the force field and just pulling back any workers that got hit once to the beyond the reach.
Really, really good control there.
Oh.
Well, he's going to go for Oracle as well. Okay.
Yeah, that is fascinating.
Yeah, because if he follows up with a Phoenix, it'll be out by the time the Oracle gets to his base. So, well, he's going for a Robo follow-up. So maybe ShaDoWn has some 300 IQ processing going on that we don't know about.
Okay, well, the probe does make its way in. Doesn't quite see anything beyond the gate or the unit tech. I think he may have caught a glimpse. No, didn't actually even see the robotic facility. So, funny enough, I almost wonder if he saw the robotic facility, this would have revealed I guess fooled MaNa even more, because he sees the robo and he doesn't expect a Oracle then. But
Yeah, I mean, it could be like a double plus fake out, right? Because why would you build the Phoenix if your opponent didn't have a Stargate, right?
Yeah.
You can always scout with your Oracle.
Well, Oracle number 1 for MaNa makes its way in, gets a couple of kills, actually a decent number of kills. 5 kills is really solid, and has a second Oracle on the way. But ShaDoWn is actually banking up these Oracles, maybe expecting that there's going to be shield battery, but the Adept shade in. See, there's no shield battery. Already getting a couple kills himself.
Yeah, nice little trades here early on. Worker count still very close between the two of them. They both got the expansions up, so still anyone's game. Just a slight lead overall for MaNa in terms of that worker count. We've got the Immortals coming out for MaNa, and ShaDoWn just getting the Observer first.
MaNa looking like he wants to make another dive in with the Adepts and the Oracles at the same time. And ShaDoWn on the other side of the map also has his own Oracles about to move on in. 9, 10 workers killed off, though. The Oracle's going to escape.
It's a bloodbath on both sides. ShaDoWn's Oracles come in. There's nothing here, just that Immortal. And the probes are falling fast, Fear Dragon, on both sides. Absolute worker massacre in this PvP.
Oh my god, the Oracles went back in there from MaNa. He's about to run out of energy. I think that finally the bloodbath is done on one side of the map, but the other Oracles still trying to find extra little bits of damage. They have some energy left over. 17 workers to 22. I guess that MaNa came out a little bit further ahead in this situation, but it is tough. At this point, do you just make a Phoenix?
Well, I think MaNa made a Phoenix, but it's weird for ShaDoWn because reinforcing from a proxy Stargate is not ideal. You lose the defender's advantage that you would normally have in a PvP where you're like, oh yeah, well, if we're both building Phoenix and my Phoenix are built faster because they're at my base, then I'm fine. But that's not the case here because you proxied, so.
Yeah, well, one Phoenix is still going to be able to pick away at the Oracles. I think he's looking for the Oracles right now, expecting that they already left from the bottom right. In fact, they're still sitting there, but MaNa is going to have the Phoenix also to help out with this push in as he starts to move on forward. Got a scary number of gateway units, and guess what? The gateway count over here for ShaDoWn, it's okay, but a lot of these Stalkers are just sitting in the main base. Some of the Stalkers are sitting in the natural. They're kind of segmented off from each other, and with the force field on the ramp, all these units are just left for dead.
Yeah, that's a really tough spot to be in. Really great use of the units here. Really like the way having the Oracles in the back. At the same time, ShaDoWn tries to attack, but it's not enough. GG, MaNa is going to take the series 2-1.
And both those players wailing away each other. It's like one of those boxing matches where neither player decides that guarding is important. It's like, actually, I think I can hit you harder, and you'll get
Let's
knocked
just trade
unconscious
punches
first.
and see who blacks out.
Yeah, exactly. And MaNa comes out on top.
Nice. I wouldn't box MaNa. No.
I would not.
He's also much taller than me.
StarCraft players are quite good at boxing.
Have
you seen the beginning of the game?
That's true. Oh my. Whoa! Cut the break. Cut the break.
Cut the break. All right. Well, congratulations to MaNa. He is going to be moving on to the winners match to face off versus Skilless in another Protoss versus Protoss. Hopefully, he didn't reveal too much of his hand, but ShaDoWn is still going to be in it. He's going to have to play versus Hero Marine now,
and you know what? Hero Marine may be on life tilt versus Protoss right now, so there's a potential here for ShaDoWn to have another upset.
Do you think Hero Marine's the kind of person who goes on life tilt, or do you think he is the kind of person that goes the other direction, just gets really angry and starts playing better?
No.
No.
Parent players don't play better angry. No way.
This is fair. But all right, guys, as you guys can see, our two matches set on up. And of course, we are going to have the fifth match as well to decide who's the second player to make it on out of the group. But soon we'll be discovering who is going to be knocked out of WCS Winter. Find out in a bit.